Hey guys, we're here again with Steve today, and he's going to explain to us what it takes to get into these types of trucks.
Yeah, we're sitting here in a beautiful new Peterbilt 567 with a 168-inch side door. It's got the bigger table and the bigger bed with the side door, which has been a really popular option. But we have a lot of people that like this type of a custom sleeper truck, but it's not for everybody. So we were just going to kind of take a minute and explain. These trucks have all the comforts of home: shower, toilet, refrigerator, freezer, microwave, convection oven. I mean, it's a flat screen TV, surround sound. So they are the ultimate in convenience. But what goes along with that is they're heavy. So, if someone is weight sensitive, this vehicle's not going to work. This truck weighs in the neighborhood of 25,000 pounds, and people, depending on, there's a lot of storage space, so depending on, what people take with them, it can weigh more than that by the time you get it all rigged up and ready to go. So one question that comes up a lot is how much they weigh. So typically a truck like this would not work for someone who's pulling a reefer, because normally in a reefer application you need to be able to haul 44 or 45,000 pounds of payload. So if you got a 25,000 pound truck and a 15,000 pound reefer, you're 40,000 pounds empty, which gives you about 40,000 pounds of payload. So normally this would not work for somebody trying to pull a reefer. Normally it doesn't work for somebody who's hauling general freight. With the freight rates that you get, pulling a dry van, normally you wouldn't generate enough revenue to be able to make the truck payment on a truck of this nature. So typically this truck would go to work for somebody who's hauling military freight, specialized freight, explosives, jet engines. Normally it would be a car hauler, like an enclosed car hauler that's hauling exotic cars, or perhaps a lot of the household good movers like to use, because a lot of times they have 2 or 3 guys that have to load up the household, in order to move the freight. And normally the household movers aren't weight sensitive. So those are the primary markets that I've seen can use the custom sleeper in their application.
Yeah, that would be a good thing to talk about, is the different customers. And
Southern Pride is one that hauls jet engines and aviation type products. Landstar has a lot of military type freight when you get into their A&E division. Admiral Merchants, R&R, explosives, a lot of those operations have to be a team operation. When they load their freight, they have to have 2 people on the truck, because they normally can't park. So Reliable is a customer that hauls enclosed cars, and they use a lot of custom sleepers. Passport, horseless carriage, those are the kind of car carriers that we've sold a lot of custom sleepers to. That's basically the top ones that I can think of right off the top of my head.
so that's some different directions you can set your sights for, because it's not a process where you just decide one day you're going to buy one of these trucks. You have to pre-plan your moves.
Yeah, typically the people that are operating the custom sleeper trucks are the people that are well established, with good credit and good experience, and can bring in the premium freight rates.
How does, and I'm sure you have different finance options for these types of things, but how does the typical process work?
Um, Typically, a customer would call about a truck, and of course they'd ask about the equipment and the specifications. Once they decide what piece of equipment they want, then we would evaluate their trade-in and see what kind of value we can get for their trade-in, what their payoff is if they have equity. A typical scenario for somebody buying a truck of this nature, the lenders, we have a large portfolio of lenders that we can work with. Of course, PACCAR, BMO, Wells Fargo are some of the major ones. ARI is also a good lender, and they understand the equipment, the value of the equipment, and they are good at lending on the custom sleeper trucks. Once we determine what the customer wants, then once we determine the value of the trade-in, the profile that a lender is looking for is normally they like to see someone with 5 years of experience. They like to see someone with a 700 credit score. They like to see somebody that's generating $200,000 a year in revenue. These are just kind of the general rules. There's always exceptions to the rule, but that's just kind of like the rules of thumb, what the lenders like to see in general. A lot of times we can get things done that don't fit within those parameters, and then sometimes there are things that fit within those parameters and we can't get them financed for whatever the reason may be. Tax liens or child support or that kind of thing are always issues that create problems with the lenders. But a typical scenario on a truck like this would be 72-month financing, $50,000 down, and $4,000 a month truck payment. That's kind of just a general guideline that I've seen that seems to work for most people. Sometimes, depending on the credit, we can get better rates, or if there's some issues that the lender looks at how much money you've borrowed before. What they like to see is someone that's borrowed money and paid as agreed, on a previous loan. A lot of guys come in and they say, well, I just bought a car with zero down, but the consumer credit is different than commercial credit. This on making a deal on a truck like this is a business loan. So they want to see someone that has proven that they can generate the revenue, has proven that they can make a large payment on a consistent basis. The lender looks at the deal in terms of the amount of risk that they see in loaning that money, and the larger the down payment you have, the more experience you have of borrowing money and making a large payment are all pluses. What the lender does is they take the credit application and they score it out on like a scale of 1 to 100, based on if you own your home, if you have a mortgage, based on your previous truck financing, based on, your credit score is part of it, but they also have a thing called PayNet, which is your commercial credit score. So the lender looks at all those things and comes up with a score that helps them determine, first of all, if they'll make the loan, and second of all, what the rate in terms of the loan will be. We have custom sleepers that are anywhere from $300,000 down to $75,000. So typically they like to see 20% down, but we have done some loans. So we would like to work with whatever works for the customer, but these are just kind of some general guidelines from the deals that I've seen over the years and what seems to work best. There's no hard, fast rule. Everything's negotiable, but those are kind of the general talking points of what the lender likes to see.
A lot of people ask me what these cost, and it's kind of a toss-up because there's so many different ways you can go. From if you are building your own, or if you're, I mean, if you take one of the pre-manufactured from the factory, this is what you get. There's a difference in building your own versus getting the perfect thing right off the bat.
Yeah, the truck is built, you know, by Peterbilt, and there's probably $50,000 of variation between the engine, the transmission, the suspension, the interior, the frame, all of the different components. There's 10 pages of specs, and each line item has a part and an option associated with it, and a cost. So you've probably got, you know, $50,000 of variation in what the truck cost, and then on the sleeper side, you know, you've probably got another $50,000 worth of variation of what the sleeper can cost, you know, depending on the equipment that you specify. You know, we try to very nicely equip our trucks that we have in inventory. They all have the platinum interior. They're all 565 horsepower. Most of them are automatic transmissions. And then we have the Legacy 2 interior, which comes very nicely equipped, you know, for a typical husband and wife team or the owner-operator. But you can, if you want to reduce some of that option content, you can get a truck for less money by speccing less equipment on the truck and less on the sleeper.
And the variation between like a 120 and incrementally, like going up to a 168, is there a huge difference in the price between the footage?
Well,
just on the base price.
Yeah, there is added value, you know, for the inches on, you know. We have one of our trucks that we sell a lot of is a Peterbilt 579 with a 120-inch Legacy 2 sleeper. We sell those for $259,900. This is a 168-inch sleeper, and it would typically go for $279. So you do have variations in the cost per inch of the sleeper, but you also have variations in the content.
More cabinets and closets.
More, you know, 2-burner cooktop, you know, induction cooktop, those kind of things. A bigger inverter, those kind of things are all part of the package that goes with, you know, the more expensive and the more room.
Correct. So about $20,000 difference is an easy way to look at it. And that depends on if you can customize anything from there. But from the standpoint of I walked into a dealership and bought a truck today, that was pre-manufactured to your specifications, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we work closely with ARI, and they specify the content of the sleeper, and we specify the content of the Peterbilt, and it works very well. We have previously custom built. We have one customer that has a motorcycle garage, you know, so they are able to haul their motorcycle, and then whenever they get to their destination, they can open the door, push a button, and have their motorcycle drop down and go for a ride. So there are exotic specifications like that we can do as well, but you know, for the most part, we like to keep, you know, the most commonly used.
Would you like to give everyone your contact information? I will put it in the description also, but
yeah, my name is Steve Soldner. I work here at Dallas at Rush Peterbilt. My direct line is 469-706-5229. Call me anytime with questions or quotes or whatever you like. My cell phone is 214-926-2929. Give me a call. I'm happy to help you.
I just remembered what that question was. State by state, dealer by dealer, there are better options. You should search around, if I'm thinking right, because some states have much more expensive taxes and things.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that's a challenge in dealing with, the process of buying the equipment and getting the truck, legally running down the road. When you purchase the truck, typically we will sign the purchase documents and the finance contract, and then we have a 90-day paper tag, which you can usually get the truck home on, or you can move it around, but you're not normally allowed to haul a load unless you buy a special permit. So once we make the deal, get the financing approved, sign the contracts, we can give you a paper tag that's good for 90 days. Then you'll need to have insurance before the truck leaves the property. The lender wants to make sure that his collateral is secured with insurance. And then usually the process of processing the title and the registration documents takes a couple days. Each state has their own peculiar process that they have to go through. Of course, we're most familiar with Texas, and we can normally process the certificate of origin and have you a white slip, which means the title's been applied for, in 24 to 48 hours. I know some people operate out of California. They can send the paperwork and get the plates, even before they finalize the purchase process. Some of the states that want to make you pay taxes, you have to have the original document and process that, and then pay the fees when you process the title. So each state is different, and a lot of the carriers will process the registration for you. I know Landstar is good about that, and some of the other carriers will do the paperwork for you, but it does take time to make that truck legal to operate and haul a load.
It certainly does. Thank you so much for your time today, Steve.
Good to talk to you. Thank you for having me.